Hi, this is Dana with Dana Digital Tutorials, and today I have a masterclass on Midjourney. I'm going to go through from A to Z as much as I know on how I use Midjourney, how I get the looks that I want, how I even get it to give me a character in the format that I want. So we're going to first start with the Explore page. If you've never used Midjourney before, I recommend you spend some time on this page. Start to get to know how people are writing their prompts, what they're including, especially for images that you like. So if I click on, say, this image here, and let me go ahead and move my photo for the rest of this video, just so you can see everything. I can see how they have written this prompt and their parameters that they have used, and I can also favorite, which I have done here. But I will tell you that if you favorite an image and an author decides to unpublish it, you will not be able to see it anymore. So if you really like an image, I recommend you go ahead and hit prompt and image. Oops, the prompt did not work. Now it's worked. And image. If you notice, if I hit the image, then prompt, the image disappears. So go ahead and hit prompt first, then image, and then just hit enter. I like to do that because I get it into my library. I may not ever use it exactly the way they've done it, but at least I now know how to get this style and design within my library. So when you're on this page, you can filter by random, hot, top, and you can even go top, day, week, month. In addition to that, you can come up here and you can search. So maybe you want to search for an owl, see all the different ways people create an owl and what you might like, and go ahead and start learning how to format your prompt. You can change it. So maybe I have this stained glass, but I want it to be purple instead of blue, so I can make that adjustment in my prompt. Or maybe I want him to have a different aspect ratio. There's all kinds of things you can change, and I'll show you how to do all of those things at a later point in this video. In addition to searching for, say, a subject, you can also search for a style. Now it's not going to give you every 3D image, but if they've typed 3D in their description box, it will pop up here, and you can start to see how people are creating 3D images, and you can learn how to mimic these with the subjects that you want. So we're going to go over to the Create page now. And over here in the Create page is where our feed of images that we've created is, with our prompts and all of that over here on the right. If we're in Organize, we'll just see a list of photos, but we won't see all these prompts unless we click on a particular image, and we'll see the prompt for that image. So the way this is laid out here is these are your variations. This is your prompt. It will not show you the whole text. It will be cut off a little bit. This is an image or style reference if you have any. And then below that are parameters. They have made this to where we can click and we can mix and match our clicks instead of just having to use the entire prompt. If we want to use everything in this prompt exactly as it is, we can hit use, and everything will pop back up here, including the parameters that were down below. So you can see the AR, but we can change anything that we want. So maybe I want this to be a 1:2 ratio, and then I can hit enter. I can also get through all of my prompts quickly, the more recent ones, by just pressing the up arrow. And if you keep pressing up, it will go through all of the prompts that you have created endlessly. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. I don't want to create another one of that image. You can like your own images as well. So if you click on this and you really like this one, you can heart, and it will show up over in your organization, which I'll show you in a few minutes. So I do recommend that you use your heart for either just the images you know you're going to print, or I personally like to use the heart for the styles that I like, not so much the image that I'm going to print, because I can always search my own images right up here if I'm trying to find something specific. So the way they have this broke down, by the way, is I can also just click this prompt, and I could go down here and click, say, any one of my parameters that I have set, and I can click as many as I want. If I click an AR ratio in two different prompts that are two different styles, whichever one is first is the one that Midjourney will listen to. If I click an SREF code, which we'll go over later in this prompt, and then I click an SREF code that's different in another prompt, it will put them both in there and it will kind of mix and match them. We will go over the SREF codes later. So if I want to use this image, I can click the image. And right now it is an image reference. If I want it to be a style reference, because maybe I don't want blue lotus leaves, but I like the black and the blue, I could change this to say sunflower leaves, and we'll see what it gives us. But I would want to make sure this is on the style reference, which is here, instead of the image reference. If I have a photograph of or a piece of art, it doesn't have to be a photograph of a person, and I don't necessarily want anything else the same except that character, it could be a dog, it could be a person, it could be an animal, then when I've got my image up here, I'm going to want to click the person. And then it's going to know that I don't care about the layout, I don't care about the color. I just want this flower to be replicated in whatever style that I'm going to create later. Typically, though, it's going to be a person or a pet or an animal. I have done this with flowers and it's worked really well, but a blue lotus flower is typically a blue lotus flower, so I don't really need to do that for a blue lotus flower. So if we come up, we can see it's starting. I do not have any more fast hours left, so it's painfully slow. But as you can see, you can customize this really well. We're going to come over here to the three little bars here, and we're going to see our default settings. These are the default settings that come into play with Midjourney when you first get an account, but you can change your default. So if you always want it to give you a landscape, you can choose some of their presets. You can't choose a custom ratio, but you can choose one of these, and if you don't have a ratio specified, whatever you have chosen here is what the default will be, and it will add it to any prompt that you create. I typically leave it at square. The mode between standard and raw, standard is going to use Midjourney's creative methods. Raw is going to listen more to you and use less of those creative finishing touches. I don't use raw a whole lot, but maybe I should, because sometimes when I'm trying to create something, it creates something else. The version is going to always be default to the latest one, but you can come down here and change all of these. As you learn the codes, by the way, you will find that you use this box less and you just type them up here. It's kind of like shortcut keys, if you will, but not quite. You can personalize to your own style. I don't do that a whole lot just because I have images of many different styles, as you're going to see later, and so I don't feel like the personalized does a whole lot for me in my Midjourney. Stylization, we're going to go through that later. Weirdness and variety, which is also known as chaos, we will go through those later, but just know that you can change your defaults here so that it always gives you variety or weirdness or stylization. Your speed, if you have fast hours, you can click fast hours. What's nice about fast hours is when you've typed your prompt up here, whatever you've got up here, I can actually then come in here and I can type after my prompt --R, a space, a number between 1 and 40, and it will create 1 to 40 versions of that. That's very handy if you're not sure what you're trying to get. I often will combine this with the SREF. Right here, I'll type in SREF, random. So that just gives me a random SREF code, and then I'll do a --R14, and then that will give me 14 different SREF codes with my prompt. So if I had just typed cat and then did this and I had fast hours left, it would run those 14. I find if I'm going to do that, by the way, and we'll go into SREF codes later, that I like to go ahead and ask it to isolate on a white background so that I can see how that SREF code responds. And let's go into that a little bit later. So this is your default box. Your stealth mode, if you don't want people to see, should be on. I'll show you in a few minutes how you can hide images that you've already published. So we're going to close that out. I'm not going to actually run that prompt. And you can see here I changed it to sunflower leaves, and I used this image as a style reference, and so it's giving me something very different. I don't think any of them look like sunflower leaves, but it did give me something different with a similar look and feel of down here. So let's go ahead and go into our organize. Over here in our organization, we're going to see just our images. We can choose to see them as the full image, so you can see that like this tall image has black border so that I can see the entire image. If I changed it to square, it's going to crop it off. I don't really like that, so I keep it at full. So we're going to start at the bottom here, and let me close some of these up for you, and we'll just look at this one. Your image size, I can choose what size it shows me my thumbnail. I'm old, so I like it large. And then we're going to go up to our filters. So you can click liked and just see what you've liked in your own generations. So if you save like for these styles that you like, this is a quick way to get to them. You can click and just show the ones that are unrated, which will be unliked, or you can show the ones that you've hidden if you've hidden images, which you can do over here in the organization. So I could just hide it right here. Usually I do that when it's just a subject I don't want to see anymore. Like I had it create something just looked too evil and for me, and I didn't want it on my page. So that's mostly what I'll hide. So down here in your image size, you can ask it to just show you your square, landscape, or portrait sized images. You can ask it to show you which version you created in, if you published it or you unpublished it. We'll go back to that in a second. And if it's a tiled image or if it's not a tiled image. So that will help you kind of filter and find things. So if you have published images and you click publish, they will show here. I do not have any published images, but if you do and you're looking at them, if you hold down your shift key right here, you can select your images, and then you can come down to more and you can unpublish so that they won't be shown anymore publicly. You can click select today. If you've created too many though, you may not see the more. It may not give you that option, so you may have to select smaller sections. You can also come out here and click and drag and select a whole portion. So you do have multiple ways to select your images. If I wanted to also, by the way, when I have this whole thing selected, I can click download. If I download, it is going to put them in a zip folder and download them to my computer. If I have more than 50 images, it will put 50 in the first zip, 50 in the next zip, and so on until it finishes. Some people like to go ahead and just do all their creation, download them all at the same time, and then work on them, create kind of a streamlined process. Under more over here, I could also like them all, unlike them all, hide them all, unhide, and so on. I could add them all to a folder. I don't typically click down here to add to a folder though. I just drag them to a folder, and I'll show you folders here in a minute. Now my folders are very chaotic because I've kind of created them for today's class, but I want to show you here what I have as folders. I actually will not be keeping these folders here, the chicken and the owls. I find it's a lot more productive to just type up here owl or chicken. I keep it singular because if I type chicken in one post and chickens in another, and I search on chickens, then my singular chicken is not going to show up. What I instead like to use my folders for is smart folders. I really like those, and I have right here, this one has been created. This is my Christmas folder, and if I click on these little dots, you can see that I've entered some subjects or some words that I might have typed that I would want to show up here. So anytime I create a prompt with the word Christmas or candy canes, I should probably change that to singular in case I just have one candy cane. And Santa, gingerbread, any other thing that I would relate to Christmas that I've created, I would put in here as a word. I can see I spelled this word wrong. So as my life goes, that is my weakest link, if you will. But then as I save this folder now, they're just going to automatically be in here. So I do find this is very beneficial because I might not remember some of the Christmas subjects I typed, and I want to see them all at once. Interestingly enough, I cannot create a folder to search by parameters. So let's say I have an SREF code, which I'll show you those in a minute. I can't create a folder that just shows me my SREF codes. I wish I could, and I think the only way around that would be to remember to put in my word prompt just the word SREF as a random word, and then I would be able to create a smart folder, but I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to remember even if I say I'm going to do that. So that's really the bulk of the organization here. They do have a chat box. I don't have time for that, so I don't really go into that. You'll have to play with that if that's something you're interested in. So let's go ahead and talk about Stylize. So Stylize is, there's 3 ways that you can choose your Stylize. Well, there's really 4, because you could click, if you've got a Stylize set, you could click it here, and it'll put the Stylize 500 up there. You can type --S 500, that will work. You can type --Stylize 500, and that will work. Or you can come up here and click this box, and you can punch it in here. But remember, if you punch it in here, it is now your default. So any images that don't have a stylization, they will automatically be a 500 in the future. So if you want to do it here because you just can't remember the code, go ahead and put it in, push enter, and put it back. That's what I like to do. So I'm just going to delete that. But what does that do? What does stylization do? Well, here we have let's go back over here. And I know his wing is off. I could fix that in the editor, which I'll show you in a little bit. But more, we're just looking at the quality of the image. You can see it's very low quality. It's just not as detailed. And for some prompts, this is actually really good. For this prompt, I don't like it. And this is just another version. But when we go up to 500, now you can see we're getting a little bit more of those intricate details. The word I love owls is down at the bottom. Hopefully that just doesn't come with that higher stylization. You can do several variations to play with that and see if it will do better. And here I can see that in fact that's not a problem because this is also stylization 500 and the text is nice and big, so it looks really good. If we go to 1,000, it's just even more detailed, and that's what your stylization will do. So if we come out of there and then we go to aspect ratio, I wanted to show you this because I know you understand, or I'm assuming you understand what an aspect ratio is. Just like stylization, we have several things that we can do. We can type --AR, and then we would put the first number, which is the width, the second number, which is the height, I do believe. Let me look at this image. Yes, that is correct. So the first number is the width, and the second number is the height. I can also do it up here, but then I don't get as much options. So if I wanted to say create a 20-ounce tumbler wrap at 93 by 82, this is not going to give that to me. So I would need to manually type it in. And of course, I can also click it here on another image if I have it. When you are creating for a particular design, like a tumbler wrap, I do recommend you add like one extra number. So we know a tumbler for 20 ounce is 9.3 inches by 8.2 inches. So you would think, let's just type 93 by 82. But I do find that sometimes this comes up short and my image will be too short, and that's going to require me to either work the image or create additional at the bottom. So just by changing that to a 3, I get much better results, and if it gives me a little too much on the height, I can just crop it off without any issue. Now when you're working with images, sometimes you may want to create in not your finished ratio in order to force Midjourney to create something that you want. And what do I mean by that? So when I create a square, this dog was actually put in here as a whole dog, but a lot of times it will be a head and shoulders version. Not always, it just depends. But when I change the aspect ratio to something tall and skinny, it typically is going to give me much more of the full length of the dog, and in my Photoshop I can go ahead and add the width and the text that I want. So maybe I wanted to put a cute quote about my Shih Tzu and how much I love her, and so this would be a way to force it to get Midjourney to give you more options for a full length of a dog portrait. I can also force it to do a wide version here so that I can take this into my Photoshop. I can add height, and I can put a text quote above him, which would be really cute. So don't always use your aspect ratio for your finished product size. Also use it to get Midjourney to do the things that you want it to do. So now we're going to go and find number 4. I don't know why, but Midjourney does not allow me to order these, and it just has them in whatever order it wants. So number 4 is going to be some of the other parameters, like the chaos, or the let's see what they call it, the variety or chaos. Those are both the same thing, and the weirdness. So when I put in, this is my original prompt, but when I added 3000 weird, it did give me some very weird results. Now, I typed in owl, so my weird's not that weird, but on some of your images, they can be very weird. Think like Dali, Salvador Dali, not the AI generator, or artists that you know that create very odd and weird things. I've seen where I have drips of water with eyeballs at the top. I'm talking weird. But that is what the weird does. When I do variety, and I meant to take weird off of this one, but I didn't, but I'm going to leave it in for now. What the variety does is it says, okay, here's my prompt, but I'm giving you permission to work way outside of my box, or a little bit outside of my box, or not outside of my box at all. So when I ask it to give me an owl with flowers, how much creative liberty do I want to give to Midjourney? When I give it a lot, I can see on this image it's added glasses. It did that in the weird as well. On this image it didn't really do much. But if you're working with a different subject, or you have less of a nailed down prompt, then you're going to get a lot of different options and a lot of different fun and crazy. It just is a great way to get some variety, especially if your creative brain is stuck somewhere. So that is the other parameters that I really wanted to go over with you. If you want to check out Midjourney's parameter list, Google Midjourney parameter list, and you'll find a Midjourney page where it will go through them, how to use them. It will give you examples. It's really great. I'll try to find it and add it in the description below for you. Now I want to talk about subject order when you're typing your prompt. So if you look at, say, this image here, I have sunflowers with a chicken, and I don't know where my sunflowers with a chicken with a sunflower went. So that's sunflowers with a chicken, and we will have to, here it is. Okay, so I type chicken with sunflowers, and my chicken is nice up front, and my sunflowers are in the back and supporting. When I type sunflowers with chicken, now my sunflowers are more prominent, they're more big, and my chicken's kind of in the space, and he is supporting the sunflowers. He's still prominent, and this isn't 100%, but it is a little tip if you want your sunflowers to be bigger. Change the order of your prompt, and you will get a different result. And this also is a really good time for me to talk about your prompt length and your text length. When I type, the text always seeks sunshine. It's a short text prompt. Also, sunflowers with a chicken is very short. When I keep things as short as possible, Midjourney does a lot more creativity with my text. Sometimes with longer prompts, it makes me a liar, and it will give you some nice big fun text. But a lot of times I find the longer the prompt or the longer the text request, the less fun if you will, or accurate your results are. And let me show you what I mean. So, and this is an edit. We'll go through editing in a little bit. Here I had ChatGPT write a very elaborate prompt for me, and I still have just always seek sunshine as the text. I had it here. Let me go back. I had it at the top. I have it in all caps. That does matter. If you type in all caps, Midjourney will create in all caps. You type in all lowercase, Midjourney will create in all lowercase, almost always. But you can see my words are very small down here in the bottom. 99 out of 100 times I find this the case. If my prompt is long or short and my text is long, I still find this to be fairly accurate. The text might be a little bigger, but it's going to have a lot of errors. So if you're really wanting accurate text in Midjourney, short prompt, short text request is the easiest way to go if it's not cooperating with your long text or prompt. So let's go ahead and go into our next subject. I did number them to make it easier for us, and that is the editor. So when I created this image, it gave me the word seek twice. So we would want to use the editor to fix this. Remember, if you're on a mobile device, that will be repaint. And if you want to change the aspect ratio, you'll have to do that under reframe. So when we click in the editor, it defaults to the eraser. So I can come in here and I can erase this word and ask it to create a new version. If I realized I erased too much, I can click restore and I can come back in here and paint it back. This would be my undo, my redo, the completely reset. This is the size of my brush. My mouse allows me to drag my finger up and down on it to change the size of my brush, but if you can't do that, you can drag this back and forth. Scale will be the size of my image in my box. As you can see, I have a lot of opportunity here to change the size, but I also can grab and drag these handles. If I hold down the option, it will do the same thing as the scale slider and bring it all the way around. If I want to move my image around on the board, I'm going to want to make sure I click right here on these little arrows and I can move it around. So if I say wanted to reframe it like this, it will delete everything outside of my canvas and it will add additional over here on the right. I can use this editor for more than text. I can erase this area, I could erase this area. Anything that I want it to work on, I can erase. Once I hit submit and I get my 4 variations, or if I hit submit more than once, I'll get 4 times however many times I hit submit. Then I can pick the one that I like the most, and I can go back into the editor and fix the parts that it didn't do right the first time. So you may have to do the editor a couple of times. Now, by deleting just this word, it reads the prompt that's up here, which I could change. And it's going to say, okay, I already have always seek, and most of the time it's going to give you something else here. It's giving me a sunflower before, which I think I have in this example. It's giving me blank space. But if you want to have it just redo all of the text, a little tip that I have is just go ahead and enlarge your brush, and oops, I need to be on erase, and just go ahead and erase all of the text, plus the area that you want it to be able to create the new text. So if you wanted it to create up here as well, you go ahead and just erase that whole area. Now, there's no guarantee that it will put the text all the way up there. It just knows that it's allowed to put the text all the way up there. You can drag your canvas size. So if you see, I can make my canvas bigger or smaller here. You can also pick some of the preset ratios. If you've dialed in a specific ratio that is not one of these standards, I recommend that instead of extending your canvas, that you just use these handles if you want to add more background. Once you're done, you'll just hit submit. And then you have 2 choices. You can go back to the image that you clicked editor on, or you can go back to all of your images. I'm not going to hit submit here because I've already done it, but we'll go look at the results. So when I just erased the word seek, it put a sunflower here on this variation. The other ones, I just had blank space there. I like the sunflower the best. But when I erased the whole area, I did not go up into this area. I made it stay down here. It gave me a sign as an option. It gave me a different sign as an option. And then it gave me this. And this is what I was talking about, that sometimes your edit will be better, but not perfect. So I went back into my editor, just like I showed you before. I painted out all of these words, and I had it work again. And this is what it gave me. I did submit it 3 or 4 times. This was my favorite. So I thought I'd show you that we started with this, and then we ended up with this. Pretty good job for never touching Photoshop, but don't you think? So now let's go ahead and go to our next step, which is one of my favorite little tips. If you're creating custom things in Midjourney, you want to add a name. So let's say you're creating digital stockings and you want your customer to allow you to put a name on there. If you don't put a name in here because you know the name is going to be different, it's going to design based on no name. So you're going to have to figure out where to put the name. But if you go ahead and ask Midjourney to put a random name, I do recommend a longer one, by the way, then it is going to create a space for you and the design around that name. I can use Photoshop to delete this name, and I already have a beautiful arranged image to go right around a name. So, little fun tip for you. So let's go to the next step here, which would be 8, and that is SREF codes. I do believe all of these owls have almost, if not the same prompt, yet they all look different. We're going to ignore the Santa for a minute, and we're just going to look at the owls. Pretty cool, huh? So you can do this by using something called an SREF code. And you remember when I showed you the prompt where you could come up here and after your words and what you want it to do, you do dash SREF. Here's where you can plug in a specific prompt, anywhere from 1 to over 4 billion as a number, so a lot to choose from. or you can just say random, and it will give you a random number. If you want it to give you 12, you could do --r and 12. You do have to have fast hours, and you do have to have fast hours enabled in order to do the --r 12. But this will get you some good SREF codes that you can use. I will tell you that when I do, and I think I said this earlier, but I just want to remind you, is I'm usually going to do something like an owl with flowers, and then I'm going to type isolated on a white background. That's a shortcut in my Mac, so I don't have to type all of that all the time. And then if I really wanted to, I could go ahead and use my other shortcut to have my 20-ounce tumbler. I have a lot of shortcuts so that I don't have to remember and type all of these all the time. But let's go in close and look at some of these. So you can see I have a clip art sticker. You can add that of flowers with a cute owl. I flipped flowers and owl because I wanted the flowers to be more prominent. And then I put a longer text to see how some of these SREF codes would work with longer text, because remember, longer text doesn't always work very well. And then prominently displayed below, I did add that because it is a longer text request, and this didn't do too bad. I probably would use the editor to just delete this area, or maybe just the S and the T, and see if I can't get it to fix that area. I am on Stylize 500. I did put no people because this SREF code preferred to put, actually I think it was a little girl. Feel free to use it. You can copy it, and then it just defaults to version 6.1. This one here, I think the owl looks a little sinister, which I don't love for my taste and what I create. However, when I looked at this prompt, I said, I bet this might make a really good Christmas SREF. So don't always discount an SREF code because it doesn't work with your test subject. Think about what it might work well with and try it with that. This one is, I don't know what this one is, but I love the colors. But feel free to try any of these SREF codes. This one had more of kind of a monochromatic feel. I really liked it. I could see some scenes that might look good with this code. This had more of a text line drawing effect to it, which I think might make great coloring book pages, but it might be too busy. You can try. I have it on Stylize 300 here, but try 100. Maybe there will be less lines. And this one just gave me kind of a soft, ethereal feel. Some butterflies were added in, so I would repurpose this SREF code for a butterfly scene because it put it in there without me asking. It's probably pretty good with butterflies. This just had more of a vintage feel. A nice thing also is you can combine SREF codes. I'll show you some in a minute. So, and you can just see the different varieties that these SREF codes have created. By the way, this SREF code and this SREF code are the same one. So if you look right here, you'll see the number does not change. 3 out of 4 of these were text or graphic in nature like this one, but this 4th one was a photograph. So it makes me curious what a full image would look like without an isolated background. I'm wondering if it does kind of the animation and real world photos mixed together, and that might make for some fun photos. Over here it just gives us some almost kind of like some 80s colors, if you will. And then this one here I thought was kind of fun. It has a little bit of 3D in it, but not quite. But feel free to try them out yourself and see how they work for you. So now we're going to go to my 3rd SREF folder. This one I'm not going to click on because these are my personal SREF codes that I use in my own work, but I'm just going to show you what is capable. And I do believe this is about the end of the video, so I'm going to go ahead and zoom in so you can see them a little bit bigger, but I'm not going to click them. So these are some of the FRS codes that I have found using random, and I am starting to play with some of these newer ones here. And I took this one and I created a great pattern. I really think it's pretty. And you can see some of the SREF codes that I am using and what I'm able to create very quickly with these SREF codes. You'll notice I have a lot of owls in here. That's just because I'll do a whole series where I'm looking for SREF codes, and I'll just paste this. If I don't have fast hours, I'll just paste the same thing over and over. And that does bring up a good point. So if I were to go in and type owl isolated on a white background, I do think I put clip art sticker of an owl, flowers with an owl, but we'll just type that. And I do SREF, and then I do random, and I hit enter here. See, I have no fast hours left, so I got to turn it into the stealth mode down here, because I can't do that. And we're going to go like this, and we'll type owl isolated on a white background dash SREF random, and I hit enter. Then if I hit the up arrow, it's not going to give me random again. It's going to give me the SREF code that it typed. I have no idea what this SREF code has done. Feel free to try it, and maybe you'll have a winner. I would have to type random again. So what I like to do is Command A, Command C, especially if I'm out of fast hours, and I'll just hit paste, paste, paste until I have filled up my queue. I like to do that when I'm watching TV, just let it work. That's how I find some of these codes. But I thought you would enjoy seeing the capabilities. This is one of my favorites here. So now let's go ahead and take the owl search off so that you can see some of my other SREF codes that I have in here. And you're going to see there's quite a few that I have created. I love my Santa Claus. He's kind of fun. I've combined this code and this code, which gave me this here. But SREF codes are extremely powerful and can do a ton for you. And the nice thing also with these codes is that you can create a cohesive set of clip art that would all look similar. I do believe this is a similar code. And I may have typed my prompts a little bit different, but if I keep my prompts similar and I use this code and I just change out owl for cow, I'm going to get a bunch of images that look very similar. And I think that you're going to find these codes nice because I can create something now and something in 6 months, and if I'm using an SREF code, I will have consistency across the board. And that's really great if you find some results that are selling well and you want to create for a different season using that same SREF code. Sometimes what I'll also do is when I find an SREF code that I really like, so let's go back into SREF 1. Here's another one where I took this image, and I do believe I combined it. I don't see it here. It's probably under create because it was just taking so long to create. And nope. Oh, let's see. We'll go down here and look. I do believe that I did combine it. Here it is. And I didn't like it. So sometimes when you combine more than one SREF code, you're not going to like the result. You can weight your SREF codes. So let's go back in here and let's go ahead and combine 2 for you. So we're going to click on my SREF 1. I don't have an SREF 2 for us today, but we're going to combine, say, this one and this one. And so we're going to click here. I want to use the entire prompt, including my parameters. So I'm just going to click prompt here, and then I'm going to close that, and I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to click the SREF on this one. You'll see it combines them. And I can hit enter here, which I'll go ahead and do, and then I'm going to hit my up arrow to get that prompt back, and I can weight these SREF codes. So if I wanted to say this, make this one stronger than this one, I would just type 2 colons and a 1 in order to create a weighted effect of these 2 SREF codes. I am just using 2 here today, but you can use more than 2. So have fun, play with them. If you find some and explore when you're looking at other people's that you like, you can play with those as well. A little tip is if someone uses an SREF code, click on their name and see what other SREF codes they're using. That will help you find ones that you like. And we do have one more category to go through, and that is tile. Midjourney does a fantastic job at tiling. And there's some little tips and tricks with the tiling. So if I click on this tiled image in Midjourney, and then I click it again, it will actually show me the tiled effect across my entire screen. If I am looking at this a little bit smaller, like my standard size, I can see more of the tile. If I click it again, now it gives me a bigger version of it. Last week it didn't do that, so that is an upgrade. And then if I click it again, it's just going to go back and forth between those two. So if I want to get out of there, I have to hit the X. And whenever I see an SREF code like this that I think might make a really good tiled image, I go ahead and do that. And I'll click on the prompt, and maybe I won't. Maybe I will take that prompt out, and instead I'll just click the SREF code, and I'll come up here and I'll write scrapbook wallpaper. And the reason why I'm not giving it a subject is because I want to see what it favors when I do the tile. Like, does it prefer to put people in? Does it prefer to just have patterns? And so sometimes when I take out all of my descriptors and I just give it generic, it really helps it come up with something a little more specific. And speaking of, when you're doing random, you can also do what we call a blank prompt. You can do 2 quotes, and you can do SREF random, and then you can get a random SREF code with no prompt, and you can really see what that SREF code is capable of and prefers. So if I go ahead and hit enter, that'll show up in our create. I do like the tile feature, but one word of caution. If you edit a tiled image, it will become, the variation will become an untiled image. It will not show up in your tile filter whenever you click the tiled down here in the filter button. I believe it's all the way at the bottom. But as long as you stay away from the edges when you're doing your edit, it will still be a tiled image. It will just not be marked as tiled. So I think that this is really all I have. This is Dana with Dana Digital Tutorials, and I hope that it really helps you get creative in Midjourney. Have a great day.